We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you if I don't say the words that make...
Welcome along to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. We always like to have somebody different on the show, someone with a different perspective or a message to tell us, or a business to promote. And this week we've got a charity to promote. It's good afternoon to Juliet. How are you, Juliet?
I'm very good, thank you. Nice to talk to you, Steve.
Great to have you on the show. We met each other through your wonderful charity. We were supporting Raval Restaurant, and they were raising money for Feeding Families, which you can find more information at the website www.feedingfamilies.org.uk. And I just thought it would be a great idea, and that we'd supported you in that week to try and find a little bit more out about the charity and give you a bit of promotion. So just want to know, where did it all start? Where did Feeding Families start?
Well, completely accidentally. So I was working for the NHS, minding my own business, and had no thoughts of setting up a charity at all. But my husband and I were living in Gateshead at the time, and we had some sofas that we wanted to give away. Well, if you've ever advertised anything for free, you know how that goes, that 30 people get in touch and say they want it and nobody turns up. But this lady kept persisting and saying she really needed them. So in the end, we said to her, well, you can come and get them. Then, of course, she didn't have the money for the van. So I said to Neil, oh, come on, let's just help out. It was near Christmas. So we thought, we'll do our good turn and we'll turn up with these sofas. So when we got there, she's got 5 kids under the age of 7, and she's living in a house that's got no furniture in it. And it turns out that her husband had been the victim of a violent attack. He'd been injured. He was in hospital and probably likely not to fully recover from that. And she just literally slipped through the gaps. And, it was a mile from where we lived, and you hear about things on the news, but unless you've sort of seen it face to face, I think you're a bit in disbelief that stuff like that can happen in this country and in our region, in our city. And I was just absolutely horrified by it. And we stood there and thought, well, we can't just give her the sofas and walk away. So we just thought, well, what can we do? So we went to the shops, we filled the car with food, so at least her and the kids had something to eat. And then sort of got on with our lives. But she told us for Christmas she'd wrapped up empty boxes for the children to make a game of stacking them up and knocking them down, because she literally had nothing for them. And that really stuck with me over the coming months. And I told a friend about it. So when we were coming round to the next Christmas, I'm sitting Saturday night watching Strictly, as you do. And my friend pops up on Facebook and says, you helped a family last year. Do you think you could find a family for me to help for Christmas this year? So I thought, well, it wasn't that difficult. So I went out on social media, and within an hour, 200 people had replied. But it wasn't just people saying, I need help. It was people saying, well, I'd like to help somebody as well. So just in that moment, in that split second, I thought, well, what if you could get a person who needs help and a person who can give help, and you bring them together, and one person gives Christmas to another family. So that's how it started, that we just started matching people up. So one family would make a hamper in those days, it's a Christmas dinner now, and take it personally to the other family and just wish them a happy Christmas. And, if we're in the privileged position of being able to do that, it was just a lovely thing to do. But out of that's grown an all year round events. So this year, in total, from our centre in Blaydon, we're expecting to send out 50,000 boxes of food. It's colossal. It's huge. But just to say, we're not a food bank. So, brilliant work that NUFC and all of you do with the West End Food Bank. But there are actually a lot of people who can't get to a food bank. And this is a problem as well. And I think that's something that we don't think about so much.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was going through your website. I've stuck the address down the bottom there if anybody would like to have a look at that and hopefully, help out as best they can. But said the work started in 2016 as a personal project, providing Christmas hampers to a small number of families in desperate need over the festive period. But in October 2017, as an organisation, you were truly born. The Christmas hamper scheme is that something which continues to this day?
Yeah, so at the moment, we're just taking applications from people who are needing a bit of help at this Christmas. And then what happens is that in November, we open up for donors, people who would like to take that Christmas dinner. So last year, we did about 2,500 of those in the region. But in addition to that, we do food boxes sort of with Christmas treats and things from our packing centre. So last year at Christmas alone, we helped over 11,000 families. Now, in the past year, just week on week, we've seen over 100% increase in the demand for what we do. And people come into our centre and say, well, that's lovely. You've got all these pallets of food. Isn't it kind of the supermarkets to give it to you? They don't. So everything that comes in is either given by the public or we raise money and we go out and buy it. But we're on a massive scale now. And just sadly, it's not getting any better. And, we hear a lot about food poverty, but every one of our boxes, there's a story behind it. There's a real person, there's a real family going through all sorts of situations. It's not people who've been on benefits forever, although it's some of those people, but it's people who are working. I think it's 67% of children now who are in poverty have at least one working parent, and that's pretty shocking, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it definitely is. COVID, of course, something which is still, in our memories. 2020 it hit. How did the charity rise to the challenge of COVID-19?
Well, before that, we were a Christmas charity. We had our big thing at Christmas, and I thought that's what we would be. But of course, when you're a food charity and something like that hits, you've got to sort of step up. So we started delivering to doorsteps during that period of time. And then one of our volunteers, who was an ex-matron in the NHS, she said, it's a problem for people in hospital, particularly the elderly. So they've gone in with COVID maybe, and they've been there for a few weeks, but they're feeling a bit better. So they're getting sent home now, but the milk's gone off in the fridge. They've got no bread. There's nothing there when they get home. And people were just literally getting tipped out the door to go back home to nothing. So we developed our welcome home boxes. So it's a little box of low and no cook food. So if you've been feeling a bit poorly still when you go home, you can have a cup of tea, there's some cereal and milk, there's some breakfast bars, there's fruit in a tin or in a little pot that you can eat. Just stuff to keep you going until you can get some other help in place, be that family, friends, social work or whatever. So those have been very popular, but sadly the needs increase. So now people are asking for those boxes because they literally don't have the gas and electric to cook the food. So we've seen a massive increase in the demand for those as well.
How long does the emergency food box tend to last? Is it a day or 2 days?
It's probably 3 or 4 days. So we say it's a box for 1 to 2 people. If it's a family of 4, they can have 2 boxes, family of 6, 3 boxes, and so on. So it's just to keep people going in those times of emergency. But the difference between us and a food bank is that people don't come to us. So nobody walks in the door and accesses the food here. What we're doing is we're supporting at the moment 232 other charities, schools and organisations across the region. So our boxes go to these people who are working with the most vulnerable, and they know who the people are. So what it means is we don't need to know everybody's story at the end. We just need to trust our partners that they're working and they can see where the need is. So in a school, for example, they know the kids that are struggling. And you might be on free school meals, or you might not actually, because you might just be below that threshold. But the school can see where those struggles are happening, and they can just pass a box along because they've got them in the school ready to hand out. So that's how we managed to get so many out across such a wide area. And unfortunately, almost every day now, we're getting new organisations approaching us and asking if they can help as well.
I mean, obviously, we know that poverty is an issue in this area and across the country, but we also know that we have a lot of elderly people who people are living longer, and a lot of these elderly people live on their own, and unfortunately for them, if they end up in hospital and then getting discharged, out of hours, they can be struggling as well. So you do tend to help elderly people, don't you, coming out from maybe an operation in hospital, who are going home to an empty house.
Yeah, we're in 10 hospitals across the northeast now. So they have our boxes either in the discharge lounge, the emergency department. So we have those boxes ready to go back with people. In some areas, they've got sort of like a taxi service where someone will run them home. So it's dead easy to put a box in the car with them. So they've got something to go back to.
Yeah, and there's also people struggling with mental health issues as well, I guess, who again need help, don't they? When they are released back into the community after having treatment at a particular unit, to come back home, and again, I guess you need to help those kind of people as well. There's all these different groups of people who need help.
Yeah, I mean, we're linked into mental health charities to help with that. I mean, whatever anybody's cause is, because I know lots of people support a particular type of charity, be it cancer or children or mental health or veterans or whatever it is. We're sort of the goalkeeper, if you like, behind that, to stand there and to provide the food to all those organisations. So if you're a cancer charity, you want to be getting on doing your work in your specific lane, your area of expertise. What you don't want to be doing is having to run down to Tesco and get a bag of food for somebody because they've got nothing to eat. So if we can stand with all these charities and we can be that provision, it just gives them more time to get on with the valuable work that they're doing, and we can partner with them and support them, because food's a basic need. You can't get around that. You can't bypass it. If people aren't eating, they're not getting better in any aspect of their life. So it's sad. It really does sadden us. And I think for all the people who volunteer and work here, we would all say if we could shut the doors tomorrow and all go home because we'd sorted it and it was a job well done, we'd all be really, really happy for that. But we're not there yet, and we're not going to be there for some time to come.
The big thing for charities, of course, is raising money. I've done it for over 25 years now. We've supported the food bank on this channel since we set up just after COVID as a YouTube channel, and it's becoming increasingly more difficult to raise funds. And I know you in your role as CEO, you have to work on the funding bids. Is it getting more difficult, Juliet?
It is, because at the moment, all charities are struggling. The demand for just about everything is going up. And we get a lot of our money from grant funding. So I'm applying, doing funding bids for those. But now there are more charities chasing the same money, and the pots tend to be getting smaller. At the same time, our demand is getting much bigger. So that needs more money to do it. At the same time, donations from the public have dropped off because people can't afford it, because everybody's in a cost of living crisis. So that gap is getting ever harder to fill. And coming up to Christmas, obviously it's our busiest time. We're planning on doing 10,000 boxes from the centre that I'm sitting in today within 2 weeks in December. That's a massive ask, because for the 10,000 boxes, there are maybe 20 items in each box. So that's a heck of a lot of items of food that have to come from somewhere and either have to be given or bought in. So, we're really shouting out there to people. We are the biggest Christmas project in the Northeast now, but it's not an easy thing to deliver. It's massive. The logistics of it, the delivery of it is just absolutely huge. I can't tell you. We start in January to start for the following Christmas. But what I know we're really good at in the Northeast is coming together as a community and all doing our bit. And one of the things I've really brought into feeding families was my own family story. So my grandma was a farmer in Barnet Castle. And I remember she came to live with us when I was a little girl, and she would tell me stories about the farm. And I remember so clearly her telling me about this lady who lived in the next farm, and she had a baby every year and they had nothing. And my grandma put some butter and eggs in a basket and went up the lane to help her out, because that's what you did. You sort of helped your neighbours. And I think in this day and age, we might not even know who our neighbours are who live next door. The world's kind of moved on a bit, but we are all neighbours in one way or another. You know, we've all had our struggles. And I think for anyone who has struggled in the past, if we can pay it forward in some way to help other people, what a brilliant thing to do. And that's really where Feeding Families has come from. You know, that I, on my own, I can't do that much. I can feed one family, but now by coming together and other people doing their bit, we're going to feed 50,000 families this year, and that's not to be sniffed at. So, you know, you might think, well, my tin of beans or my pound or whatever isn't very much. But when the whole of the Northeast rises and does it and says, well, hang on a minute, we're not having this in our patch, we're not having this for our friends, our family, we're going to make a difference, then that's exactly what happens.
Where are you based? Where, you know, you mentioned Bladen, I think, you know, and again, people can look on the website, the address is down below, but where are you based at the moment in the Northeast?
So our headquarters is in Bladen. So we do Northumberland, Tyne and Weir from there. And then we've got a second centre, which is in Fishburn at the moment in County Durham, but we're going to be moving hopefully to Sedgefield very soon. So still in the south of Durham. So from there, we can serve the Durham area and down into Teesside as well. So with our partner model, we've got partners all over the place, you know, just about every town, city you can think of. We've got something there or pretty close by. So that's how we get things moved around pretty quickly. Or if people have a need, we can tell them where the nearest place is that they could maybe go and get help.
I mean, just again, going through the website, 102% increase in demand tells you the situation we're facing in the Northeast, with poverty in particular and people struggling. But the other figures that I was looking at, 4,388 volunteers. That's fantastic. That shows the Northeast spirit, Julia.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a good clump of those volunteers are the people who deliver out at Christmas. And people love that project, you know, just the idea that your family goes out and shops for another family and you do it together. Sometimes workplaces do it together and everybody contributes a bit towards that. And it makes that Christmas for that family, because otherwise, you know, there'd be kids, there'd be people who wouldn't be getting a Christmas dinner at all. You know, they'd be having something, well, maybe not something at all. Because people are struggling so much. You know, we just hear some heartbreaking stories and think, how can it be that bad? But it is in places. And, you know, I think a lot of us, if we're fortunate enough, we're not going to worry what we're going to sit down to on December the 25th. We've got choices about what we can eat and what friends and family we can have round. But when you take away those choices because you've got no money to make them, it's really, really bleak. And I think Christmas just emphasizes to people what they might lack in their lives. And, you know, if you're lonely, if you're feeling cold, if you're hungry, it's just the worst thing if it just looks like everybody else is just having a fantastic time. So if we can lift spirits a bit, if we can bring a bit of festive cheer, if we can just let people know that the community cares about them, it's really important to me. And we've got a little flyer that goes in our boxes. And it says, this box is made with love by a community that cares about you. Stay strong. And not so long ago, I delivered a box to a young man. And when I got there, he was on the phone to the Samaritans. It was that bad for him that day. And afterwards he said that box of food coming just meant so much to him because somebody was listening and somebody was caring. And sometimes it's not even about the food, it's about that message that, you know, we're here for you. You might not know who we are, but we're your family. And I think that's what we feel, isn't it, as Northerners, that we are a family and we do stick up for each other and we fight for each other.
Yeah, 100%. As well as filling in forms and trying to get grants, you know, you branched out, you know, doing a gala dinner. You held your first one last year at the Gosforth Park, and that was a big success. I guess for you, especially learning the ropes for putting on an event like that with all your team. It's a big thing, and you know, you raised a lot of money on that night. How important are those kind of nights to getting the money in the bank to help people?
Well, like you say, last year was the first time that we've done it. We just had our second gala last week, and we raised £18,000 on that, which is phenomenal. That means, in real terms, we can feed 700 families. So, you know, it's not to be sniffed at. And I know sometimes people say it sits a bit uneasily that you're sitting in a hotel having a lovely dinner and having a lovely evening while other people aren't. But we've got to get our message out to people whatever way we can. We have a lot of businesses that come to those events. And what we're asking for as well is for business sponsors to come along and stand with us. You know, a lot of businesses want to do something at Christmas, and, you know, we could be that charity that really helps families around the Christmas period. So, you know, if people want to do a fundraising event in their office, if they want to come and volunteer with us, pack some boxes, deliver some boxes, you know, we're looking for all of that, because the project's just colossal and you can't have too much help. But the money, we always end up talking about money, but that's what does it at the end of the day. So, you know, it's great for people to come along and pack with us, but if we've got nothing to pack, then it's not so good. And again, like I say, there's so much goodwill around that time of the year. So people can support in whatever way they want. If they want to do something personally, get their friends together, get their business together, their sporting club, whatever it is, there's something that you can do, and you can be part of the difference this year.
Yeah, I mean, if you go onto the website, there is a downloadable fundraising pack as well, which it's a very easy to use website. Some websites I go on for various charities can be a bit confusing. You know, this is very easy. As I say, click on it, have a read of it, educate yourself a little bit about a very important charity that is in the Northeast and does need your help. And by raising just £40, you can provide food provision to a family of 4 for 4 days. It's not a great deal, that, and you know, as I say, there's a few suggestions. Juliet's just mentioned a few. You can run a fundraising event at your business and donate in the proceeds. Sorry, you can do a sponsored event, birthday gift in lieu of presents, memorial collection to commemorate a loved one, having a Christmas collection instead of sending Christmas cards, and teachers organising a class collection instead of individual gifts from children. So many different ideas. Is there one thing that's popular, or do people pitch in and do a lot of those and maybe other stuff, Julia?
It comes from all over. It's really surprising. I had a lady contact me yesterday who's part of a ladies' bikers club, and they do fundraising events, and that was a new one on me. So, you know, there's all sorts of groups, and they're going to do, I think, a children's Christmas party with a disco. And they're going to run a stall in Asda collecting food and money for us there. So, you know, there's lots of opportunities that we've got as well. So even if you don't have an idea, you can come to us and we can give you one, and we can get you to help with something that we've got running. So we've also got a Santa breakfast coming up at the Gosforth Park Hotel just before Christmas on the 16th. And hush, hush, because we haven't announced it yet, so you're first to know. We've got an afternoon tea that day as well. So maybe one for the ladies if you want to send them along for that. And all of that just raises vital funds, and it raises awareness of who we are, because not everyone's heard yet, but we're shouting out there because there's so many people who are looking to us to be their help, to be their support this year. And sometimes it's quite daunting and you think, where is it coming from? How are we going to manage to do it? But so far we always have. So this year I'm looking for a miracle, but we believe in miracles here. So keep the faith, and it's gonna happen.
You also have a section on your website entitled Youth Champions. Tell us a little bit about that.
So last year we started a project into schools because we thought we've got to teach kids early on about what's going on. So there will be children who are experiencing food poverty. There'll also be other children who maybe aren't so sympathetic, but just because they don't understand that not every child can have the best trainers or the brand names or whatever it is. So it's explaining some of that at a level, depending on the age of the children. So we'd send somebody in to go through a story with them and to ask them to talk about it. And then on the back of that, we'd ask for their ideas about how they wanted to help. So for some schools, that might be raising awareness about food poverty, feeding families. It might be doing a fundraising event. It'd be using their talent. So if they've got somebody who's very talented at something, they might want to do a sponsored swim or whatever it is that they're good at. But it's letting kids know as well that they've got a part to play in this. And some of our best supporters are young people, are children. Because once they get the fire in the belly and the bit between the teeth, they're off and they're wanting to do something. And I think, part of the thing we all need to do as adults is to help them to express that and to get behind them and to set them free to be passionate and to be game changers for society. Everybody's got the power to do something, whether you're young, you're old. You think about Captain Tom, walking around the garden. There's no age limit on it, either end of the scale. We can all do something and get involved.
Yeah, 100%. The Great North Run, of course, has been and gone again this year in September, but another big fundraiser for you where people just can choose the charity and essentially, run for the charity.
Yeah, so we bought some places this year for the first time, and all the places got taken, which is great. So, some charities are struggling in different areas, but, we've got such a great group of supporters that people turned out, and I didn't put my name down for that one. I'm up for most things, but no, not that one, not for me. But, that's the thing, isn't it? There's something for everybody.
Yeah, of course there is. And Christmas, as you've mentioned, is around the corner. And again, people can click on the Christmas menu option on the website, feedingfamilies.org.uk, to do the matched Christmas dinner process. So that's something I guess you're pushing at this moment in time, because Christmas is literally around the corner.
Yeah, so anybody who's listening who actually needs some help, you can apply now. You can put in an application. There's some evidence that we need to see from you, but it explains on there what you need to do. So even if it's not you, if it's friends or families who are really struggling, then please do get them to go there and have a look and see if they would like to apply. And then what happens in November is that we try and find you a donor. So that will be somebody who will just have basic information about you. Obviously, we have to give them your address so they know where to come to. But they'll buy the ingredients of a Christmas dinner from their own money, and they'll deliver it to you just in the days before Christmas. So you've got some lovely stuff and you can have a lovely time with that.
Fantastic. Well, feedingfamilies.org.uk is where you can find out more information. It's been an absolute pleasure, Juliet, to have you on the show. We'll keep in touch with you, and anything we can do to help you and support you, we most certainly will. But for now, Juliet, thanks very much.
And thank you for having me. Lovely to chat to you, Steve. Take care.